UN Global Compact Network India, 14th National Convention, Sustainable Development Goals, pioneering solutions for India.
Global Compact Network India, the UN Global Compact's local arm, recently organized the 14th National Convention in Mumbai. The summit brought India Inc.'s finest minds together to find pioneering solutions for India to achieve the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The event kicked off with an opening address delivered by Dr. Udesh Kohli, Senior Advisor, UN Global Compact.
It's indeed an honor and privilege to welcome you all to the 14th National Convention of the Global Compact Network in India. India is very much committed to the SDGs, and the role of the corporate sector and the civil society organizations on which the local network of the Global Compact in different countries, they focus on, their role is very important. And together with what government does, I think what corporate sector does makes a big difference. And India will move forward, leading the world in this direction. Thank you.
We at Accenture take immense pride in being the official knowledge partner for GCNI National Convention in India for the last 6 years. The theme for this year's convention is Pioneering Solutions for India with a spotlight on technology. We are living in a fast-moving, dynamic, technology-driven world where one cannot ignore the enormous development opportunities presented by technology. We will get an opportunity to get perspectives from our distinguished leaders on the dais on the same topic. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
The evolution of capitalism from last century's model that served shareholders to this century's model that services society equally requires a cultural shift. The shift has already begun, but we must accelerate it. So what will enable more corporates to implement SDGs? Perhaps the answer lies in what could be called alternativism. For a real societal and environmental shift, businesses will have to move beyond orthodox models and respond by providing real out-of-the-box solutions. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your patient hearing.
Whether it is the SDGs or whether it is the MDGs, these things tend to be easier for any country to accept and move towards if they are in conformity with what the government in any case wants to do. In the case of India, there are several government initiatives which in any case are moving in a direction that the SDGs are headed towards. When you think about the SDGs, do not only think about the SDGs as SDGs in isolation. The SDGs exist in a framework of overall government policy. They are nested within that framework, which is a movement in the same direction. And the biggest challenge, in my view, will be in the area of health. And many of the government schemes, which you are aware of, are therefore focused on health, both on its preventive side and on its curative side. Thank you once again for having me.
India is already making progress on the SDGs. There are many public and private programs that are exactly aligned with the SDGs. So progress is being made, and it's being made really at two levels from the perspective of the United Nations. One is domestically, where goals and targets are being met. Of course, in some areas progress is faster. In other areas it's less fast and perhaps needs to be accelerated. And then the second level is globally, because the population size of India is such that globally, about half of the completion of the SDGs globally will be because India meets the SDG targets.
The Who's Who of India Inc. released the Accenture GCNI white paper focusing on the role of technology in transforming India's sustainability agenda. Meanwhile, the awards honored some of the Indian companies that are incorporating sustainability into their business agenda.
In the corporate private sector, the winner is JK Tyres. And the next category is corporate public sector. The winner is Indian Oil. In the NGO sector, the winner is RO Foundation. In the business school category, the winner is Terry. And in the Innovative Practices Award 2019, there is a special jury recognition award now being given to Hindustan Unilever Foundation.
I must say, as compared to our response in earlier convention, this year the unique feature has been the best case study competition, where companies showcased as to how they have aligned their business agenda along with the SDGs. Also, another feature, we also allowed companies to showcase their solutions to large number of delegates, how they are able to percolate down or implement SDG through their product and services. Overall, I am very delighted the convention achieved more than one way the kind of conversation narrative we wanted to have on pioneering solution, and to that extent we are indeed happy to see a great response.
Now it is time to felicitate the young sustainable champions. Empower, an organization working with school children in the areas of entrepreneurial life skills through co-curricular programs and workshops, organized a pan-Indian competition called India's Future Tycoons to inspire young minds to innovate in the areas of SDGs. 3,300 students from 250 plus schools across 52 different cities of India participated in the India's Future Tycoons 2019 competition, and today we present the top 3 teams. So I invite the first team, Team Bloom. Their idea was an internal tap attachment consisting of an array of sensors, digital IoT tech and micro nozzles. The attachment converts water into mist and reduces water consumption by 90%. Wow! The next team is Team True Wipes. Their idea is True Wipes works on creating wet tissues by converting wasteful corn crops into useful, chemical-free, handmade wipes with higher water holding capacity. Inspired by IKEA using sustainable replacement for wood, this venture aims to help the world with eco-friendly tissues at affordable prices. And another all-girls team coming up, Team Owlet. Their idea is Owlet aims to provide young children with curated, kid-friendly news from around the world in a fun and easy-to-read language that they understand. Owlet wishes to make a simplified version of newspapers that would help children become smarter and equip them to hold a conversation even on serious topics like politics and economics.
UN Global Compact Network India, 14th National Convention, Sustainable Development Goals, Pioneering Solutions for India.
Bhaskar Chatterjee, Secretary General, Indian Steel Association, moderated a plenary session that put a spotlight on the need for pioneering, innovative and effective solutions to accelerate SDG implementation.
When the SDGs were brought into focus as against the MDGs of the past, the United Nations system thought for the first time that we must also reach out to corporates across the world, to businesses across the world. And unless they are brought into the loop, so to speak, the SDGs will never be achieved. And therefore, at the very heart, the very core of some of the thinking around SDGs is how businesses perform, how they bring the business agenda into the arena of sustainability. Now, with that as a backdrop, what I would ask my panelists to tell us how they view not only this general scenario, but in your individual companies, what are you doing to bring in innovations, technology, to accelerate the SDG agenda?
Fundamentally, corporates can influence behavior in 4 broad ways, in my view. Number 1, change the consumer behavior. We sell a lot more of 5-star rated air conditioners and refrigerators today than 3 or 2-star rated, and consumers are willing to pay that much extra for energy efficiency. And energy efficiency leads to low carbon. I mean, it's a whole series of outcomes which you drive for. I think that gives you a symbolic way of how you can change consumer behavior. The second element which companies need to do internally within their organization. I think we all have started reporting what I call as a GRI reporting, where internal metrics are we're starting to lay out our internal metrics to external world and come under scrutiny, lot more scrutiny. The third element is on the influencing the supply chain, which means every organization has a deep influence. Like in tea industry, for example, within Tata Tea, we've got the whole issue of Rainforest Alliance, where we have come together as an industry to say the tea gardens from where we buy, is it having sustainable labor practice, is it having sustainable environment practices, and that's a very simple linkage which we have built in terms of working together. Lastly, I think we can't forget the government, working with government to lay down regulatory framework and sometimes voluntary.
We used to run a program out of the State Bank Foundation called Youth for India. Now, one lady, she took up a project where the entire Gram Panchayat was consisting of women. The Panch never come out of their house. They wear their bhungats very long. They don't talk in public. So the husband of the Panch is the one who does everything. When she met up with this Panchayat Pati, she found that this fellow was not utilizing any of the government grants. So she then made her connections with the actual lady who was the Panch. And then she told them that unless y'all start speaking up, none of these are going to happen. 13 months later, when she finished the project, you could see the village meeting taking place, and they were all bringing in the many things that the government was bringing, which earlier was not even known in the villages. And because they could bring in all of this money, they had gained that credibility even amongst the men in the village. So, you know, the fact is that there are a lot of things that are happening, both from the corporates and from the government. But I think what is still lacking is sufficient amount of networking, sufficient amount of building of trust, sufficient amount of collaboration.
Only 15% of the urban waste today in India is actually processed. When it doubles, imagine the challenge facing the country. We set a goal for ourselves. Can our factories, our facilities have zero waste to landfill? Today we have 9 such factories. Igatpuri was only the first. 9 factories which have been officially certified as zero waste to landfill. How did we do it? Mantras don't change. It's the same mantra. We have to just implement it. Make sure that it is implemented by everybody top to bottom. Reduce, reuse and recycle. There is no other formula.
When we talk about, SDG, I think it's a complex thing. But I think when a company wants to adapt this and want to become a sustainable company, where it has to start is with its own employees. If they understand this, then doing the next step and implementing it is a little bit easier. We had a campaign about health and safety. We said on every presentation we give internally, the second slide, after the first slide, the second slide is about health and safety. What happened to the people? I can tell you personally what happened to me. Gosh, again. But I can tell you by doing this and keeping on doing this, we increased or we improved our production and health and safety standards. So taking that example and also do this for SDG, I believe that's the way how to rub it in your organization, that the organization, that SDG becomes actually, inherent in your organization.
The second plenary session of the summit saw thought leaders weigh in on technology and innovation at the heart of SDG implementation.
The topic we are discussing in today's conference, which is SDGs and pioneering solutions for it, the problems that the SDGs are trying to address are so large that you cannot but use technology to try and get traction and try and make an impact in solving the problems that the SDGs wish to address. And that's why you have this august panel here today. And I am very confident that over the course of this panel, you will hear about technologies being used to address some of the problems which the SDGs seek to address.
I'm an educationist. I will just talk about Indian education and the challenges being faced by it. Quantitatively, Indian higher education and school education have achieved so much. But this is not something which SDG Goal 4 can give a clearance that India has achieved quality education for all. What are the four major problems? The first and foremost problem is quantitative growth with poor quality of education. Second is insufficient resources being provided by the government. Third is poor learning outcomes. Four is joyless learning at schools and poor employability in higher education.
When we talk about covering everyone, and especially the bottom of the pyramid, there's a general understanding saying that price solutions or the solutions are going to be expensive. So the one is product to service and another is to say the volume alone is going to drive prices low, and that's very much possible. And sending a price signal is also important because we are talking about SDG 6. I mean, at least we work in drinking water sector, and I would say if we don't send out a price signal, the chances of wastage of this resource, the way it has been wasted for so long, would continue. And the last point, focusing solely on a technology within a domain versus focusing on solution. Solution helps us deliver the true intent that SDGs have been conceptualized with. Thank you.
We believe that out of the 17 SDGs, we are possibly contributing to 13 of them. And we are the providers and the catalysts, if you could call it that way, to make it happen on the ground. So how do we influence the SDGs as an input into the system? So we input into the system the enterprise's output. And that's how we see it. And what do we input? We input money, of course, we input money. But how do we input money is where we are trying to see if we can make a difference.
The summit further hosted 4 parallel deep dive sessions. In the first deep dive session, experts deliberated upon SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, specifically focusing on how to promote investments in energy infrastructure. In the second session, industry experts share their insights on SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, and spoke on how to recycle waste and ensure sustainable patterns of production and consumption. The third session put a spotlight on SDG 13 climate action through an enlightening session on how to reduce the emission intensity in business operations. In addition, India Inc.'s topmost minds also deliberated upon ways to mainstream gender as corporate responsibility. The summit culminated with a valedictory session by industry stalwarts like Deepak Dwivedi of Dainik Bhaskar Group and Sanjeev Mehta of Hindustan Unilever, sharing their insights on how India can achieve its sustainable development goals.
सारी निगाहें हिंदुस्तान की ओर हैं, यूनाइटेड नेशन की निगाह हिंदुस्तान पर है कि ये एसडीजी के बारे में ये क्या करते हैं। एमडीजी का परिणाम असफलता से हमने स्वीकार किया, लेकिन अब इस बात का तो संकल्प जरूर होना चाहिए कि यूएन के डिफरेंट आर्म्स साथ में खड़े हैं, भारत सरकार साथ में खड़ी है, कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर और कंपनियां खड़ी हैं, स्वयंसेवी संगठन खड़े हैं, समाचार पत्र खड़े हैं, लेकिन अब एसडीजी को फेल नहीं होने देना चाहिए। ये हिंदुस्तान के एक एक नागरिक को संकल्प लेना होगा।
Hindustan Unilever It's the largest FMCG company in the country. Our vision is very simple. It is about making sustainable living commonplace. We believe that as a large corporation, our success depends on how enriched the society in which we operate it is. So for us, sustainability is not a CSR. It is integral to our business model. We believe that when purpose leads, profits follow. Look at this chart. We have been outpacing both the BSE index and the FMCG index. This proves that sustainability is not only good for the society, but also good for the business.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen wonderful case studies presented by the school children. A good work has been done by the corporates also in these case studies. Sponsors and partners, they are very necessary to organize these events. They are the backbone, thanks to them. Knowledge partner, Accenture. Business school partner, BIMTech. Award process partner, TTC. And the GCNI Secretariat team, again led by Mr. Kamal Singh, Executive Director. Thanks one and all. Thank you very much.
UN Global Compact Network India, 14th National Convention, Sustainable Development Goals, Pioneering Solutions for India. Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.